Today in amateur radio, we're going to talk about these two radios and the differences between them. So let's talk about first this little Motorola Talkabout. I actually won this from USA Network way back in the day when they had the Bonsai movie nights. I actually got a pair of these. These are family radio systems, run off your standard batteries. They did come with battery packs, which were nice for a few years, rechargeable battery packs. But since this is discontinued, you can't get the battery packs for it no more. But the nice thing is Motorola had enough foresight to allow it to be run on standard AA batteries as well. So I want to talk about the family radio service and mainly the difference between the two radios I showed. So this one's a family radio service. This one is an amateur radio handheld. This is the Anytone AT-UV878 Plus version 1. And the main difference, do you think you can use this radio on FRS frequencies? The short answer is no. Here's the reasons why. Because the FCC specifies in the part regarding family radio systems that they cannot have a removable antenna. This is my daily go-to radio for DMR for analog. Now, as you see, I took the antenna off there, and that's the main thing that would disqualify that radio from being used for FRS. This one, non-removable. It's permanently attached to the radio. Also, the difference between this radio and the other radio and why you can't use it on FRS frequencies is simple. That one has adjustable wattage. This one don't. This one's pretty much pre-programmed, preset at the factory to run on certain channels, privacy codes, and it also has the weather bands. So weather bands are nice. It does have a weather alert, which if you get a watch or warning, those funky DTS codes you hear at the beginning will activate the radio even when it's in FRS mode. The reason why I like to carry this in the field along with this. This I keep on the weather frequencies or on weather alert, so it goes off and lets me know. This allows me to coordinate with my Skywarn people that I volunteer with, as well as our Skywarn area coordinator for Trumbull County. Couple other differences between these radios. Let me turn that around. Couple differences between these radios. This one you need a license for. This one you at the very least need a technician license for. This is pretty much pre-programmed for your basic 2 meter and 70 centimeter frequencies. I also set this one up to do 1.25 meter. I'll explain a little bit more about what that means for the non-hams. So basically, as I look at my band chart, I'm looking at 2 meter. It's 144 through 148 megahertz. So a little bit higher than your FM radio. This radio is in the 70 centimeter band. A little bit higher than the 70 centimeter band for one. Number one, so it doesn't interfere. And number two, so it has its own dedicated frequencies. This also has privacy codes. This one has a 0 privacy code, which basically means I could pick up any other privacy code, this will open. If someone keys on privacy code 67, then this will pick it up when it's on 0 or 67. 70 centimeter band is 420 through 450. That's what you will get with a technician license, and it'll allow you to get one of these cool radios like this. This one's also DMR enabled, and as well as I have it set up for 1.25 meter. You're looking at anywhere from 222 to 225 as a technician. I'm a general, so I also have a fixed digital message area. Generals, advanced, and amateur extras have that. I've never used that. Now, the other cool thing with a technician, you will get a certain portion of the 10 meter band. I get a lot more, but just for playing around, you could run data on 10 meters as a technician. You can run single sideband phone, which I would believe would be lower sideband for that. So that's nice. This you don't need a license for, but you got to be very careful when you go to purchase these things at your Walmart or your Best Buy, because they do try to snooker you into getting GMRS radios, which have a further range. But really small print on the bottom of the back of the package will say you must get a license from the FCC. Funny thing, people tend to not read that part. Now for the GMRS license, there's no test. You pay $75 and you get a GMRS license, not only for you but for your household. And it costs about $75. It's good for 5 years. So you always got to watch when you go to purchase these two-way radios, especially the ones that say long range, because the long range ones are not these. They're GMRS radios. And GMRS radios have different parts of the FCC code that apply to them other than this one. But this has been a neat little radio just to have in the field during my Skywarn operations, because this one will wake up when there's a watcher warning or weather alert or something, where I could keep the other one on my ham frequency for talking with the Skywarn group and the Skywarn coordinator. So basically, enough of the FRS. I'll put that aside. We're going to talk more about this radio and what you need to get it going. Ham radio's been good to me. I've done a lot of things with it. I've talked to people all over the world with it. With this one, you need to have a DMR repeater or a DMR hotspot if you don't have a repeater local. Now, the closest repeater that there is that runs DMR in our area is Youngstown/Hubbard. A guy in my radio club has a DMR repeater. Let's see, I wanted to check on that. Oh yeah, I'm on my phone. I'm trying to look at Repeater Book, and I'm filming this on my phone. So Repeater Book, you don't need to be a licensed ham to get Repeater Book. You do, however, have to have a license to use any of the information that's in Repeater Book. What I've found here in Ohio is there are a couple local amateur frequencies you can listen to on your phone. One of them belongs to my radio club, is in there, and also W8IZC and W8QLY is in there. But it's kind of on a complicated thing, and because it does the left channel, right channel. So if both repeaters are busy, you're going to hear a lot of traffic. different traffic coming into each of your ears, which is a little weird. Ours is not like that. And then, so that's technician level. That would be your first start. The test is 35 questions. It's just basic electronic principles, nothing too high tech. Couple diagrams will be on the test. I recommend get yourself a good book. I realize this is mirrored. This is, I recommend these books. This is from Easy Way Handbooks. It's written by Craig Buck, Kilo 4 India Alpha. And he writes these books every so many years because the FCC changes or revises question pools that make these books somewhat obsolete when they change them. Here's a fun little diagram that's on the extra test. I don't know what the heck that was. But there's more diagrams on the extra. Don't get overwhelmed. You're not even ready to get here yet. Oh yeah, the Great Smith charts. You're not even ready for any of this stuff yet. But basically, you get your technician class that gives you basic level operation. There's some repeaters here in town. In Warren, Ohio, there's we operate 2, our club, 1 on 2 meter and 70 centimeter. There's another guy, N8DOD. He runs a low profile repeater that if you're pretty close to it, you can hit it. I can hit it from here. I'm not sure where it's at, but I'm really running on about 5 or 6 watts from here, and I can hit it on both their 1.25 and their 70 centimeter. Put that back up there. Anyway, what you see behind me is wireless communication standards. That's not the chart we use. That's just a chart a company, Road and Swartz, sent to me. So I hung it on the wall. Makes an interesting backdrop. The chart you're going to be more concerned with as a ham is this one. Really, when it comes to being a technician, everything on this side of the chart is going to be yours, but you got to pay close attention in the 1.25 meter band and the 10 meter band. Now, if you become a general, you open up these short green lines in these different bands. The difference between, like, say, on the 20 meter band, which is a popular band, an extra can go Ridian data from 14 to 14.150 megahertz. A general can only go 14.025 to 14.150 megahertz for Ridian data. But where it really cuts down is an extra has phone mode from 14.150 to 14.350, whereas a general only has phone mode from 14.225 to 14.350. So I keep this up because it tells me where I can run. At field days, it really didn't matter. We started in extra bands. There were extras on hand. I'm going to put this back up. There were extras on hand to make sure that me as a general was operating right. So that was a good, that was a good time for me to go into the extra bands without being an extra, because I had a control operator who was an extra who was monitoring my usage. But I would recommend, honestly, humble beginnings. This thing is Boofwang. It's a Bofang, but we call them Boofwangs. This is what I started on. This is a UV5R. The antenna is obviously not stock. The battery is not stock. This had a shorter battery that was only the length of the radio. This is an extended battery for this radio. And I don't even know where the original battery is, so I just keep this on there. Gives you a little extra life. I don't use this radio much anymore. Maybe if the Anytone's dead, you might hear me on a net on this. Cautious with these as they have a lot of spurious emissions. That's the only thing we really complain about with these Bofangs. But they're good little starter radios just the unit itself with a rubber ducky antenna, which I would recommend changing. And the battery, the stock battery, which don't really get you much mileage. The radio itself, $35 on Wish. I bought it before I got my first grant. I programmed it before I got my first grant. And I just listened. I scanned all the frequencies I put in it. If I heard activity, I'd stop it and listen to how people talked. Because believe me, my first day on the air, I was on this. This is a Nagoya 771 antenna. Highly recommend it for these. Now these don't work for all radios. You see the SMA is kind of elevated. On the Anytone it's not like that. It's more recessed. So I have to use different adapters to get the antenna to work. But now I can hook the Nagoya up to it because I got the adapters. Checked SWR on them. That's another thing you're gonna be doing. Not with HTs, but with other radios. I checked it with an HT because that's all I have. Be honest, you're not gonna find a lot of people on this. Because a lot of us became hams. CB was my first two-way radio. This was my second. The Boofwang was my third. And my last one's Anytone 878, which I absolutely love this radio. The CPS leaves a lot to be desired. Because if I save, well, the new one, if I save my code plug and load it back in, everything's screwed around. It'll have mismatched channels and talk groups, but that, I don't want to bore you with that stuff. But definitely get a book, learn the ins and outs. I did my technician myself. I studied on my own with the book, and then went to a testing session, and you could find the testing sessions at the ARRL. That's ARRL.com. That's the American Radio Relay League. You just click classes and testing on the top navigation panel, and you're golden. You could go in there, put in your zip code. It'll find any classes, which, you know, we've been trying to get our classes on there, but we're kind of done with them for right now. We just did a technician, which at the beginning of the month of January, after the first of the year. That was the last class we're doing for a minute, because the guy that runs them wants to take a little break, I guess. But really, if you want to get your feet wet, get an FRS, get a CB. CB's still pretty active, although I wouldn't recommend getting an HT for that. I have an HTCB as well. This is another good radio to carry in the field because it has weather alert too. It also has CB if you're close to the highway. The only thing is I haven't found a good replacement for this. This is the rubber duck antenna that comes with it, BNC mount. The ones on my ham radios are different. But this has a weather alert. I bought this at Radio Shack years ago. Now while it's got a battery pack on it, these battery packs lost their luster a long time ago. They don't take charges. But it makes it a pretty hefty unit. Even with the 8 AA's, it's still pretty hefty. So, that's really all I have to say about amateur radio. I mean, I'll also update on our winter field day. I already gave you the stats on a Facebook Live. If you really want them, comment down there and I'll release a video for YouTube with our stats. We did pretty good. We got, compared to last year's, which they didn't, I wasn't either A in the club or B did they go to winter field days. We got enough points to beat last year's winner. But the only problem is with it is we won't know till November because most individuals and clubs have till March 30th to send in their logs. We've already sent it to Logbook of the World. I haven't used Logbook of the World, so I'm not too familiar with how it works, but our club's vice president does his personal stuff on Logbook of the World. I do mine on QRZ. But maybe I'll look into Logbook of the World because it's not that expensive. It's real cheap. But anyway, that's all for now. Also, if any of you local here to Warren, Ohio, Warren, Niles, Youngstown, and you want to learn to get your technician, I'll teach you. Because I have the current question pools. Only problem is they update again on July 1st. That's the only downside. Which means you only really have 5 months to learn to take a test before the question pools change. But that's it for now. If you like this video, click that like, and because that helps analytics. If you want to see more, which I'm going to get away from that political stuff over here. I put that on Facebook now, but you can hit that subscribe because my goal here is if I could get enough subscribers to get up to 1,000, I will stream summer field days and parks on the air. If I could get to 1,000 before those contests happen, so help me get there, and I'll have some cool videos for you in the future.